Hello and welcome. Happy St. Patrick's Day to one and all from north, south, east and west, across the island and across the globe. Friends and colleagues who I've shared stories with over the years. Indeed, this time last year I was in the east, in Moscow, sharing stories. And today I'm bringing you a story from my home here in the southeast of Ireland in Wexford. As you know, the world is in a strange situation with the virus and many things have been cancelled. And at the end of the month, I was due to celebrate some stories and magical journeys at Wexford Arts Centre. And thanks to Wexford Arts Centre, we're bringing you a number of stories online that people can enjoy. And being St. Patrick's Day, well, what better way than to have a story about St. Patrick? And there are many stories about St. Patrick across Ireland, doing all sorts of things. And indeed, I have one or two anecdotes here in my own book of Donegal folk tales. And there's one in there that I particularly like of St. Patrick. He was driving some serpents and demons out of County Leitrim. And the people of County Leitrim weren't happy with him. The pagans wanted to stay with their own ways and they started to drive St. Patrick out of the county themselves. They stole his goat and St. Patrick knew he was in danger, so he made his way northwest. And he came to the border with Donegal, and there was the River Drowse, still flows. I've passed it many times on my way up and down to Sligo. And there was no way across, with the crowd in pursuit. And St. Patrick took the leap and he stood into the river, hoping that somehow he would make it through the fast flowing currents. And then there before his eyes, the salmon, they came together and formed a bridge and carried him across to the other side. And in thanks he blessed the river and said that the salmon would be always in that river. And indeed today, when many rivers are devoid of a lot of the salmon in the past, there is still plenty of salmon in the River Drowse. But I'm going to take you southeast for today's story. And on this occasion, St. Patrick wasn't being pursued, but St. Patrick was the pursuer. And he was chasing the devil himself out of Ireland. And they were coming down through the middle of Ireland, across the plains, down through the Midlands. And the devil took a turn and he headed towards the mountains in Tipperary, up into the Galtees. He thought he would lose St. Patrick on the climb. But of course he had forgotten that St. Patrick was nimble on his feet like a goat. Sure, hadn't he been a shepherd boy for many years? He knew how to make his way up along through the mountain. And he was closing in on the devil. And the devil, in his anger, was shouting curses back at St. Patrick. And St. Patrick was throwing blessings at him to drive him out of the country once and for all. And when the devil came towards the peak, his mouth opened in rage, and there he took a bite out of the mountain. And to this day, that place is known as the Devil's Bit, where the Rock of Cashel is today. But on he ran, St. Patrick pursuing him all the time, on and on and on. And he grumbled and he rumbled. And St. Patrick called out to him, driving him further and further. And for whatever reason, the devil was intent on making his way to County Wexford to make his escape. On he came. And as St. Patrick came closer and closer, the huge piece of rock in the devil's mouth, well, he bit into it. And he spat out a huge rock that went flying towards St. Patrick. On the devil ran. And St. Patrick, seeing the rock coming, well, he held up his left hand and he hit the rock and drove it away from him towards the sea. And that rock landed at Kilmore Quay. And it sits there today. And people will tell you that there's the imprint of St. Patrick's hand on the rock. But onwards the devil ran, and on came St. Patrick behind him. Closer and closer he was to the sea. St. Patrick calling out to him, throwing blessings at him, driving him on and on and on. And the devil turned around and stood still, and with all his might he drew in his breath, and there he spat out the rest of the mountain at St. Patrick. And St. Patrick, seeing the huge piece of the mountain coming towards him, held up his staff. And with all his might, he drove the staff up into that massive piece of rock. And the piece of rock shattered. And the stones went firing out in front of him. And they landed in a neat formation to form St. Patrick's Bridge. Well, now the devil took advantage of the bridge and ran on across the rocks, further and further out into the sea. St. Patrick coming after him. He ran on in pursuit of the devil. But eventually the rocks ran out. The devil had disappeared. St. Patrick looked about him and he had lost sight of the devil, and well, the devil was gone. He knelt down, blessed himself, and prayed with thanks to God that he had been safe and had been saved from the attack, and hoping that the devil would never again come back to the shores of Ireland. And I suppose the question is for you to decide whether he has come back or not. Thank you for listening to the story. There'll be more to come. Be safe.